Pfizer announcing that early data from its human vaccine trial has shown it to be more than 90% effective.
Drug giant Moderna announcing their vaccine trials show that it is nearly 95% effective.
90% effective in trials.
100% effective.
Nearly 95% effective in early results.
We now have a vaccine that is more than 90% effective.
90% is a game changer.
Okay, so what does 95% effective, 90+% effective really mean? Well, I'm going to tell you that there's a lot of deception built in the presentation of that. The presentation of the effectiveness of vaccines is being, it's deceptive. What they are actually doing is they're giving you the relative risk analysis. So let's first take a look at a graphic here. So here's what Pfizer wants you to know. They want you to see just this little slice of the overall pie. They don't want you to see the whole story. We're going to talk about the other part of the story here. They want you to see the relative risk analysis, where we're looking at the vaccinated population compared to the unvaccinated population. We can see there's about a 95% difference between those two. Let's not miss the fact that in the vaccinated population, there were 8 infections. That's breakthrough cases, right? We're seeing breakthrough cases becoming a bigger and bigger issue. But let's stay on this topic here. So this is the relative risk analysis, and it's big and it looks good, and this is what's being used to sell parents to line up their, parents now are 8-month-old children and young children, 12-year-olds, young people are lining up now because they believe that this vaccine is 95% effective. But this is only one of the measures that you got to understand. So you got to understand the rest of the story, the full context of how we're being deceived by when they only tell you about relative risk reduction. So the next slide that I'd like to show you tells you a little bit more of the story. So what we need to understand is that we're working from a background population of over 21,000 people. In those two groups, 8 and 160, in fact, 8 infections in the vaccinated group is 0.04% of the vaccinated group got infected. Those are breakthrough cases. Let's not forget that. And 0.8% of the placebo group got infected. Now, let's talk about in absolute terms. If you're considering, do I want to get a vaccine? What is the difference between the attack rate in those two different columns there, 8 versus 160? Well, the absolute risk reduction was only 0.76%. So that's what the absolute risk reduction is. That's a number that you need to take into context when you're trying to make a decision. The absolute risk reduction was less than 1%. It was 0.76%. Isn't that a lot different than 95%? 95% sells vaccines. 0.76% probably sells a little bit of hesitancy, I would think. I would certainly say, okay, well, my risks are pretty low. I'm going to, please put me in the control group because we got an experimental vaccine that we don't have any long-term studies on. Let's never forget that. And we have an experimental vaccine that is showing a lot of deaths and adverse events in the vaccine adverse event reporting system. Now, let's demand the following. Let's see the next slide, please. In this slide, this is what I'm going to suggest should be the requirement for every drug, for every vaccine, forevermore. That informed consent requires reporting of all 3 of the following metrics. Sure, give us relative risk reduction. Pfizer was 95%. However, put it in context with the background rates. Absolute risk reduction, 0.76%. Now, one of the most important metrics that everybody should understand is the number needed to vaccinate. So the number needed to vaccinate probably gives you the best clarity about the efficiency or the effectiveness of a vaccination. The number needed to vaccinate in the Pfizer vaccine is 132 individuals. Now, 132 individuals, 131 of which will receive no benefits. So 132 individuals have to be vaccinated, protect one person. And again, what that tells you is that 131 people are going to get all risk, no benefits. Those are the numbers that needed to be disclosed.